Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Andy's Shed Live. This is series 8, episode 5 for Sunday the 31st of January 2021. And they said it wouldn't last. Hello and welcome to the show. We are with you once again today. And well, we thought we'd try a few new things today. So we're trying some unusual stuff today. We're trying a few extra things. And if I'm a bit echoey today and the room is looking a bit sparse, that's because it's been redecorated. So it's all a bit upside down at the minute. That I can't touch the walls because the paint's wet and things like that. So we are gradually getting there today. Hello to everybody that's in the chat. Who've we got there tonight? We've got Jimmy, we've got Dominic, we've got Christopher, we've got Wesley Pigeon. Hello to everybody who is in the chat there and watching us so far today. As always, a bit of housekeeping to do just to start the show today. And I've got a question for you. Is the sound in sync? What do you think? Is the sound in sync today? Because I'm noticing that there's a bit of a delay on my video today, so I'm just not sure if the sound is syncing up properly. In fact, I might just test it. Just bear with me 1 second. There's a bit of a delay on my video today, so I'm just not sure if the sound is syncing up properly. In fact, I might just test it. Just bear with me 1 second. Yeah, apparently it's syncing, so we're all right. just had to test it there and make sure it was all syncing up, and see where we were getting with it. Right, we're going to try some other interesting different things today as well, because one thing about YouTube that drives me absolutely mad is when you watch people who have done a live stream or are doing a live stream, or when you watch a live stream back later and they're talking about stuff in the chat when you're watching it on a system where you can't see the chat, such as a smart TV, for instance, which I watch a lot of TV on, right? Which I watch a lot of YouTube on. So when you watch on a smart TV, you can't see the chat, can you? Well, now if I do this right, hopefully you can. Hang on, just bear with me a second. Will it work? Yes, it will. I think it's there. There you go. There's the chat with you for you so far. Hopefully that's going to work. We'll see how that goes as time progresses today. But yeah, everybody seems to be in there at the moment. So, oh, hang on, I just realised I've done something a bit wrong with that. Okay, that should let it scroll now, hopefully. I've just got to show you the desk a minute. There you go, right. So this one also, I've got to do that, and I've got to do that, and I've got to do that, and hopefully now that should show you all the chat. Right, now the trouble is that's showing you top chat, not live chat, and for some reason when it's showing you top chat rather than live chat, it doesn't show you all of it. for some reason that I haven't figured out yet. So we'll have to try and work that one out. What's going on with that? I have absolutely no idea, to be honest with you. Right. Well, hang on, wrong camera. That's better, isn't it? Alright, so what is everybody talking about today? Paul says you sound fine, Andy. Thank you, Paul. Dominic says, I've been looking for a red 722 and I think you're right about them going for crazy money. I'm tempted to get a really cheap grey 722. This is the trim phone he's on about here. And just paint it red so I can have a Micro Men. That's the trim phone that used in Micro Men. Now there has been a red one on eBay this week, Dominic. There's been 2 trim phones on eBay this week together, a pair, going for about 50 quid. So if you're looking for a retro, because one of them was the 2-tone red trim phone, the what would you call it? The Snowden range phone. Christopher says, did you get my email about the ATA that I sent? Yes, I did get that, Christopher. We are going to be doing a thing about ATAs. In fact, we're going to be doing a thing about how to set CNET up and how to set ATAs up for anybody that's joining up with CNET and that. As soon as the paint's dry in this room and I can put the CNET server back, because I've got to restart the CNET server as well again because it's been turned off again and it actually crashed out, and so I'm taking the opportunity now to update it and that. So as soon as I've got that updated and that, which might be next week or the week after, we'll then do the CNET thing, and I will explain how to set up CNET and how that all works. And we'll try and figure that out for that one then. Christopher says that he was testing CB radio with the GPO handset. Yeah, how does that work? Has it got a button on it in that handset? You know, is he going to break a breaker? Yeah. Right, looks like I've caught up with the chat, so I'm hoping I've caught up with it. It's really laggy today. It's really laggy. I'm looking at a little screen down here where I can sort of see myself on a little screen. I can see the chat as well, and it's about 20 seconds behind reality. So it's really confusing me. So just bear with me while I get my brain into gear around this. Christopher says he's found 5 XN1242A railway signal post phones at Flinders Street Station. Still in use then, I take it, if they're at Flinders Street Station. Kind of assume they're still in use if they're at Flinders Street. Right, okay. What have we got for you this week? We've got an interesting one this week. Something that we've managed to get working this week. Yes, we've done it. If I can get it. Everything's further away than it normally. The table that's normally here is not here. The Starlight is here. Yeah. Now you may remember that we had this Starlight telephone on, and it wasn't wired for the UK. In fact, it wasn't really wired for anything. Well, we've managed to sort it out, and it now works, and I can prove it works, I think. I can put it on the desk, and if I put it on the desk and dial 23 on this device, there you go. Yeah, seems to work. So yeah, so there is the Starlight in operation. So we managed to get that going. Michael T says, hi Andy, filled out the register yourself page twice on CNET, still not replied yet. Yeah, they're a bit slow, Michael. Whereabouts are you, Michael? What part of the world are you in? Are you in the UK? Because not everybody here is in the UK. Whereabouts are you? What bit of the land are you talking to us from? Dominic says, is this phone American? This. Yes, it is, Dominic. It's an American, what they call a Starlight, made by General Electric in America as a competitor, basically, to Marbell's Princess phone. This is an unusual one in that it's a wall phone. There were some of these with the dial turned around 45 degrees, so you had them like that way on the desk. And so the dial was pointing out sideways, and you picked up crossways like that. Very good for fitting on a windowsill, they were. Michael says he's in Bristol. Right then, Michael. If you don't hear anything from CNET in the next week or so, get in touch with me. And if you're wanting to get going, I'll register you on my CNET server and give you a number off that. Okay, just to sort of get you going and whatnot. I'm assuming you're going with an ATA and you're not setting up a whole sort of server thin client exchange type thing. I'm assuming you're plugging a phone into an ATA. Would that be right? Would that be right, that assumption? Right, and while I'm waiting for this 20-second delay to kick through so Michael replies, I'll show you what I did to get this going. Right, these are brilliant, by the way, these phones, for getting the top off. Again, you've seen me struggle along this show many a time getting the top off a phone, haven't you? You know, getting the case off. You've seen me struggle all the time. Doing it, and doing it with an American phone is far easier than doing it with a British phone, and I'll show you what I mean. This, you don't even need a screwdriver. There's just a little thing on the bottom of there, look, you can see that, and you just push that in like that, and it just starts to come off. Well, you do need a screwdriver actually, because big screwdriver here, because it catches then, and then you have to push it in a bit more because you can't reach in far enough with your fingernail. There we go. There we go, got it. Right. So that's off. Now, and if I can do it that way, you can hopefully see the circuit board inside it. Now on this circuit board, it's quite a complex circuit board this, there's a row of terminals down here and a row of terminals across there. So on two sides of this circuit board, the terminals. And all I did was took a red wire to the fourth terminal down this side, and then there was a green wire which is this one here, which was to the sixth one down. Okay, so there's red on the fourth terminal down and green on the 6th. Yeah? Down this side here. So from this end, from the top, 1, 2, 3, fourth one down, a red wire on. There's also a red wire on the 3rd one down, but that's just a red herring, just to fool you. 4th one down, on here, red wire. 6th one down, green wire. And you take those bits of wire, because you have to put those bits of wire in. You take those bits of wire down to here, where there's some more terminals. There's 4 more terminals, L1 and L2. And you put one of them on L1 and one of them on L2. Doesn't matter which, really. And then your line, your drop cable that comes in from BT or wherever your phone provider is, that also goes onto L1 and L2 down here. So you could put your drop cable straight onto here, onto 4 and 6 up here, but put them onto L1 and L2 down there and it's a lot easier. Now I've used a flat cable and it makes it a lot simpler. If you look on the inside of this, there are things where there will be cutouts, what they call a mouse hole, but they've not been cut out on this particular phone. See, there's a cutout there, and you could have the cutout, could have the cable coming in on the side here because there's another cutout there. I don't know if you can see that. But they've not been cut out, and I didn't really want to cut them out. That was the case, so I've just done it so the 2 line wires of my extension cord just fit on there without any bother. And all we have to do then is just fit it all back together, push that back under there like that. Make sure you've got nothing trapped that shouldn't be trapped. And push it back down like that. And it's all back together. There you go. It's all back together now. So let's try it again. Make sure it still works. Try it again. 23. There you go. Still works. And if I dial from it, the other one works as well. So that is how you get one of these working on the British system. Now, I've not taken any capacitors out of service in the phone on this. All I've done is connected the 2 drop wires. So it's not converted for the capacitor in the socket thing. I've just done it straight through using the capacitors in the phone. So it works basically because the capacitors in the phone are good. So I've not done the UK conversion that people talk about so much. Right, time to catch up with the old chat. Michael T said he's in Bristol. Yeah, so if you don't hear anything from CNET in the next week, Bristol, I mean Michael, give me a shout. Get in touch. I don't know if you've got the email address or not, but if you've not, send me a message on the website andyshed.coldpress.net. Send me a message on there, and I'll email you back, and we'll sort it out from there. So you're going, it says on here that you're going from a rotary phone by a Linksys, right, that's not going to work. Are you going on a Linksys PAP2 ATA? Is that what you're using, Michael? Because if it is, they're not compatible with rotary phones. that won't work. What you would need to do, you would need to put some kind of pulse to tone converter in between there. You'll be able to get a call in on it, but you won't be able to get a call out because it won't sense the dial working. So you can fit a dial gizmo to the phone, you can fit a rotatone to the phone, or my preferred way of doing it is plug the phone into a PABX, which you can buy. They plug into a main socket, they plug into your telephone line basically, and then your phone or whatever plugs into them. So what you can do is you can plug your rotary phone into one of the extensions on your PABX box. You'll have about 16 extensions perhaps on it. You plug your rotary phone into one of those extensions, and provided it's a PABX that does pulse to tone, then where you would plug normally your incoming line into the PABX, what you do is you plug the thing from the ATA that will normally go to your phone into that in the PABX. So that's what you do, and if you've got something like a Panasonic 616 PABX or a BT Revelation, which is what I've got on the floor down here, they do pulse to tone, so you can have maybe a couple of dozen phones around your house on the different extensions, and then it goes into that box, from that box into the ATA, from the ATA into your router. It's because the Linksys ATA doesn't recognise pulse dialing. A Grandstream ATA does. Christopher on here has just bought a Grandstream ATA, which is why he's wanting me to show you how to do the setup and stuff next week and that. A Grandstream ATA, you can just plug a phone straight into it and then the ATA to your router. But between the phone and the ATA, you need something to do pulse to tone conversion if you've got a Linksys Pack 2. Oh, Michael says he's got a rotatone installed in the phone. Right, that's fine then, Michael. Forget everything what I said, because once you've got a rotatone installed, your phone is effectively a tone dialing phone anyway. So forget what I've just said there, Michael. Cool. Oh, Fat Hobbit's with us. Fat Hobbit says, sorry I'm a bit late. Don't worry about it. It's me, it's on time. People are not used to me being on time. I'm not normally on time for anything. If I'm on time, people normally say they're going to shoot me because I must be an imposter. Because I am generally not on time for anything. I don't know, it says the worst ones are the compact phones from what I've seen. The worst what? Sorry, I didn't quite follow that bit. Right, okie dokie, here we are. Right, so we've shown you this. We've shown you what we've done here with this. It's worked quite well, yes. I'm quite pleased with it. A funny story about this phone is a friend of mine lives in America, lives in Alabama in America, and this has got nothing to do with her, this phone, absolutely nothing to do with her. I bought this from a seller in the UK, and on the side of it is a little sticker here that's talking about Birmingham in Alabama. I think it's Birmingham, Alabama, not Birmingham, UK, Birmingham, Alabama, which is about half an hour away from where my friend lives. And they're in a place called Bluntsville, in Alabama. And when I took a plate off this, there was a plate on the back of this originally that I've taken off, which was a later fitting plate to convert the phone to modular, which is kind of the American version of our plug and socket. But I've converted it back to its original hard wiring. When you do modular, they put a plate on the back that's got like a plug that comes out the back of the plate. I've taken that plate off, but before I took it off, on that plate it actually said Bluntsville, Alabama on that plate. So whether it's a phone that used to be in my friend's house or not, I do not know. It did not come from her. It came from a seller in the UK, and I've sent her a message today. She says that phone's pretty cool. So it might end up going back to America. You never know. Dominic says compact phones are the worst to disassemble from what I've seen. British compact phones, like the Jubilee phone, yeah, they are pretty bad. Yeah. Christopher 2000 says he's getting CNET set up soon. He's waiting for a reply as well. Yeah, the people that run CNET are not very good at replying. They're a bit slow at replying. You, Christopher, have probably sent off to somebody else to what Michael has, because Michael will have been at the guy that looks after all the UK numbers, and you'll be going to the guy that looks after all the Australian numbers. And I'm not sure. No, I think it's the same guy actually. It does UK and Australia. I think it's a chap called Ian Jolly, who you will need to be talking to. I sometimes speak to Ian, so if I speak to him, I'll tell him that you guys are interested in getting set up. But I'll say the same to you, Michael, as I said to Christopher. If you don't get set up, if he doesn't get back to you in a week or so, because it does take a while, get in touch with me, and we'll get you set up on the CNET server here for now, and then you'll be able to at least call each other and talk to each other and that. I'm hoping at some point in the future, not quite sure when this is going to happen, but we're hoping that at some point in the future we're going to do it so you can actually phone in to this show, and we can do phone-ins. We're hoping. We need better internet though before we do that, because it's got to do all the CNET calls as well as push the live stream out. But we're hoping to get the internet improved here at some point soon. So fingers crossed. You might be able to do a CNET phone-in on here fairly soon. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? Right, I shall move this phone out of the way now, because I've shown you now how to do it. Attach the green and the red wires, and it's as simple as that. Just 2 wires. Right, here we go. Move it. Just stick it back up there. It was earlier. Cool. Right. So that's about that, I think. As I said earlier, if anybody wants to get in touch with us, you don't know the email address already, go here, andyshed.callpress.net, and just fill in the little contact formy thing. It then sends me an email, but it does it without me giving my email out across the internet, and hence getting loads of spam, you see. So if you don't know the email already, just send the contact form to andyshed.callpress.net. And remember also, while we're talking about stuff like this, that we've now got this online shop where you can buy a few phone bits and some model railway bits and pieces as well from the new line of model railway kits that we're doing at the moment. It's here, https://andysemporium.callpress.net. And if you want to be really, really complicated, and if you feel like spending $1 a month to support the show, then we've got our Patreon site back up and running as well. www.patreon.com/AndysShed. You can join Paul in donating $1 a month that goes towards keeping this show up and running. And we are hoping to stay up and running with it now. Now that we're in lockdown again here in the UK, we're hoping that we can keep it all going. So you can you can watch every week, basically every week. Right, I'll catch up on what's been happening in the chat. This chat thing's working reasonably well. It just puts a welcome message up every time I come back to it at the bottom, but just ignore that. So yeah, I'm fairly pleased with the way this chat thing's working. We're trying out quite a few new things today, and it seems to be working reasonably well, says he, hopefully. Right. Chris says he's getting CNET set up. Yeah. Says he's using a Western Electric 500 phone as his CNET phone. That's a good choice, actually. That's a good choice. They work well. American phones work very well with the Grandstream ATAs. American phones work better than British phones do if you're plugging into a Grandstream, because of what they call the make-break ratio of the pulsers. Because the Grandstream, being an American box, is set to the American make-break ratios. If you plug a British phone in, you sometimes have to tweak the dial to alter the make-break ratio a bit of a British phone. So to use an American phone, that's a good choice. That should work really well with the Grandstream, Christopher. Paul says, did you ever get your old candlestick phone working? I've not got it working yet, Paul. I have got some of the parts that I need for it now, though. I don't know how many of you guys know that on a Thursday night I do a thing called the Virtual Repair Cafe. We used to do the repair cafes as a real thing in Sheffield, which is not a million miles away from here. And it's where people used to bring their broken stuff, and a team of volunteers used to fix anything they brought that was broken, basically. Would fix it and give it back to them, and it's kind of a green thing to keep stuff out of landfill and all that kind of stuff, and to teach people a bit of self-sufficiency and a bit of skill, you know, how to change a plug and stuff like that. Well, of course, with all this coronavirus business and that, not being able to do them, so they've gone online. So on a Thursday night there is the Virtual Repair Cafe on Zoom. Now, if you want to join it, if you want to join in with it, you are very welcome to. It starts at 7 p.m. every Thursday evening. And there's a Zoom meeting number. If you want to join it, get a pen and paper. I'll give you the Zoom meeting number in a minute. But what happens with... I've gone on to talking about this because Paul was on about the candlestick phone. One of the guys on the repair cafe had got the right induction coil to go in a Bellset 26 to make it a Bellset 25, which is what will work with the candlestick. So I've now got all the parts I need to turn a Bellset 26 that doesn't have an induction coil into a Bellset 25 that does have an induction coil. And then I can put it all together, I can rewire the phone, and hopefully then it'll work. I think there's just one little bit missing out of the handset of the phone that I've still got to find, but I should be able to find that no problem. Right, I'm going to get this wrong. I'm sure I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but Ives KC says hello from Canada. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Is it Ives KC? No, is it? Yeah. I butchered your name. I'm terribly sorry, but hello out there in Canada. I bet it's even colder there than it is here, isn't it? What bit of Canada are you in? Are you anywhere near the Ice Pilots people up there? Eve. Oh, it's Eve. that makes it a lot easier to say Eve. Yeah. We had a TV show here called Ice Pilots. That basically was made by a Canadian production team, but it was technically not in Canada. It was technically, I think, in Alaska. Most of it was set, but it was made by a Canadian production team. Really good show about these World War II aeroplanes. If anybody out there has not seen Ice Pilots, go and have a look for it, because it's absolutely brilliant. Where they're still flying like World War II Dakotas and things like that. Absolutely unbelievable. If you liked Ice Road Truckers, you'll love Ice Pilots. And the guy who is in Ice Pilots, a chap called Mikey McBrien, the son of the owner of the airline, Buffalo Airlines, is on YouTube. He is a YouTuber. If you search Plane Savers on YouTube, you'll find that they spent a whole year doing a YouTube video every day about rebuilding a DC-3 Dakota and getting it flying again. Absolutely brilliant stuff. If you've not found them already, look for Plane Savers on YouTube. Unfortunately, he's disappeared in recent months, has Mikey. We don't know what's happened to him. He started the Plane Savers 2, a new project, and then he just vanished off the face of the earth for the last 2 or 3 months, so we don't know what's happened to him. I'm kind of a bit worried, really, about him. So if anybody knows what happened to Mikey McBrien, let us know. Christopher says, going back to the ATAs, he says the Grand Stream does ring the US ring cadence when the phone, so the phone matches the Western Electric. Yeah, you can change the ring cadence, I believe, on those Grand Streams, Christopher. But they do ring the US one by default. Like I say, it's a US thing, the Grand Stream ATA. But if you wanted to change it to a British ring, I believe you can. I believe there's a way of doing it. Paul says, did you get any joy with the Diacon repair method, Andy? I've not tried it yet, Paul, to be honest with you. I've not had a go yet. We think there's a way of doing it, but we're not sure. He says, I'm in New Brunswick, east shore of Canada, and it's a mild winter so far. Great stuff. I have an uncle in Canada, and he said it was never mild. He used to live here many years ago. He went out, I think, in the 60s or something like that. And he always used to say to me, he said, it's cold. It's really cold. Christopher says, I've got a lot of World War II gas masks and helmets from different countries. Really? He never ceases to amaze me. He's got everything. Have you done a YouTube video about him, Christopher? If you have, stick a link in the chat so people can go and watch it. And that. For anybody that doesn't know, Christopher's also got a World War II air raid siren that he set off on New Year's Eve at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve, and he's still around to tell the tale. No, because if I set off a World War II air raid siren at midnight here, I wouldn't be around to tell the tale. Well, I think I've caught up again. I think I've caught up with the chat again. Right, so yeah, there we have it. It's all go, isn't it? It's all interesting stuff. Right, I'm just looking for something now. Right, we were talking about these ATAs and things earlier, weren't we? And these and the PBXs. Here's how to wire an ATA so it works. So it'll work with a pulse dialing phone, but without a pulse dialing ATA. So if your ATA is not pulse dialing, or even if it is, and you want to connect loads of phones to it, this is how you do it. Okay, so what happens is your yellow Ethernet cable comes from your wall socket to your router as normal, yeah? But then your phone cable, what we would normally plug a phone into, an ordinary phone, goes from your wall socket to the line in on the PBX. Yeah? And you might have 3 or 4 line-ins on the PBX, because normally those things are designed for businesses that might have 3 or 4 incoming telephone lines. So you can do a line-in and a PBX, and also the ATA is connected to line-ins on the PBX. Yeah? Those 2 sort of orange lines coming out the bottom of the ATA there. So that PBX has got 3 line-ins connected to it. So you can select whether you dial out over the ATA there or whether you dial out over the normal phone network, and that one that's highlighted in red right at the top, that line is the one that takes you out obviously via your normal wall socket on your normal plain old telephone system. Okay, so that's kind of how I have it set up here. So I can dial out on my normal phone, or I can dial out over the ATA and into CNET. Okay, so all those phones across the bottom of that diagram there will ring whenever you get either a normal phone call or a CNET call. Yeah. So you can have loads of phones plugged in to your PBX, and if the PBX does pulse to tone conversion, you can then use a Linksys ATA which doesn't do pulse, because the PBX will convert the pulses from the phones to tone, and then it will send it out either by a normal wall socket telephone line, or it'll send it out via the ATA, which in turn goes via your router and into the internet. So that's how you set it up. Does that make sense? If you want to set it up without needing rototones and things. Right. Right, just catching up on the chat here. Oh, Christopher's put a link in the chat to his video of his World War II gas masks. I shall go and watch that later, Christopher. Dominic says, I've heard the remains of a couple of Great Central Railway stations are being cleared now in preparation for HS2 works. Could be, possibly. I wasn't aware it was going up where the Great Central went. You see, the stupid thing about HS2, about this rail link, is if they'd left the Great Central in, they could have used it. That's the really, really stupid thing about it. What people don't appreciate, we had, in the UK, we had a really modern, really fast, perfectly straight almost, railway between London and the north. You know, they're building HS2 now because they say all the other railways that go between London and the north, the Midland and the West Coast and the East Coast route, they're all too windy and that, and the trains can't go fast enough. The Great Central, which was the route that they closed, and Dr. Beecher and all that business, that was more or less dead straight. You know, they wouldn't need HS2 now if they'd still got the Great Central Railway. So isn't it ironic that they are clearing a couple of the stations from the old Great Central to build HS2? It's absolutely bonkers. Of course, part of the Great Central around the Loughborough area does survive as the preserved Great Central Railway with steam trains and stuff on it, and they get a fair old lick on that bit that they've got there. But yeah, it was a really modern railway, and they scrapped it. How mad is that? Finmere and Calvert are the stations being cleared, Dominic thinks. I don't know, Dominic. We'll have to look into that one. And find out which ones they are there. But yeah, it's absolutely bonkers, this HS2 thing. It's going to come very close to here. From my front window, from my front bedroom window, I'll be able to see the trains on HS2. And they've said here that work will start sometime in about 2030 or something like that. So 10 years time before they even start working on it. I think they've said it should be running in 2033. I think they've said, but I won't hold my breath. And what's the benefit of it? We'll be able to get to London 20 minutes faster. That's the benefit. Now, from where I am, I can either go 20 minutes to Chesterfield station and get on a train now to London, or I'll be able to go 40 minutes to Sheffield station and get on HS2, which is 20 minutes faster than the current train. Do you see the problem with that? 20 minutes from here to the station at Chesterfield to get on the normal train, 40 minutes from here to the station at Sheffield to get on HS2, which gets there 20 minutes faster. Have you worked it out? Because the people at HS2 haven't worked it out. Dominic says, from a 60s cost saving point of view, I would have thought it would have been cheaper to keep the Great Central Main Line over the Midland Main Line, as it was mostly double track. The more profitable Bedford St Pancras line could have been retained. I totally agree with you, Dominic. I totally agree with you. The Midland Main Line is the most twisty, horrible piece of track you can imagine. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Just keep the Midland Main Line up as far as Bedford, basically. I'm with you there. He says, what kind of engine are they using for the train? For the HS2 trains, I don't know, to be honest with you. I assume they're going to be very similar to what goes through the Channel Tunnel at the moment. So I assume it will be Eurostar type sets for passengers, and it will be some kind of electric locomotive for freight, pulling freight cars. That's why I said nobody about HS2 said anything about the motive traction. I do know that quite close to here, where there used to be a chemical works at Staveley that is now all flattened and basically going back to nature, they are talking about putting in one of the little railway lines that served that, one of the industrial branch lines that served that, because they're going to build a depot there for the trains, and this little branch line is going to go back in because it kind of goes across where HS2 is going to go, so it's quite convenient that all the bridges and that are still in on that disused branch, so that they'll be able to access the depot without having to do too much infrastructure. Michael T says, finally starting work on our Temple Meads station roof. Yeah, and I'm thinking it's a long time since I've been to Bristol, but Temple Meads is one of these stations with a very ornate roof, isn't it? So, yeah. Let's hope they make as good a job of that as they did of St Pancras station. Because I think one of the things that the railways did right was the refurbishment of St Pancras for the Eurostars and that, going to Paris and Brussels and stuff, because they made a really good job of that station, and I really do like that St Pancras station. There is one problem with St Pancras station. everything on it closes at about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So if you're there after 10 o'clock at night, you can't get a cup of coffee or anything. It's hopeless. Dominic says it's too early to say about rolling stock on HS2, but it's between Bombardier and Siemens built EMUs, he thinks. They have to be very powerful to get up top line speed of 230 miles per hour or so. 230 miles per hour. God, that's fast. Do the Eurostos now do 230 miles an hour? I didn't think they went that fast. I thought they did something like about 160, 170, something like that. Didn't realise they went. Did they go that fast? It's a very scary thing, because if you ever look at a set of train wheels, the flange on the wheel isn't very big, and the flange isn't actually in contact with the track anyway. At least it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to ride on the cone shape of the wheel, and there's not a lot there keeping you on the track to be hurtling along at 230 miles an hour. There's not a lot keeping you on the track at 125 miles an hour. You know, that can be quite scary. So 230 miles an hour, I'm not sure if I want to travel on that train or not. Really not sure about that. They ought to have done maglev, didn't they? They don't need wheels at all. Michael T says, I've been to Grand Central Station in New York. Yeah, that's a great station, that is. There was a program on TV here all about Grand Central Station in New York, a documentary about it on BBC 4, I think it was, a while ago, and it was absolutely fascinating. And the way that works, and the number of people it shifts per day or even per hour going through that station is incredible. Dominic says he thinks the Eurostar does about 180 miles per hour. Yeah, I think you're right, Dominic. So this 230 mile an hour, that's another 50 mile an hour on top of that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure rails and wheels in contact with rails and and more especially pantographs in contact with wire, because once you get going at ridiculous speeds, you can't keep a pantograph in contact with the wire, because the pantograph wants to come down all the time. It starts acting like an aeroplane wing. So it does very strange things. Christopher says we're getting a new metropolitan train in the Melbourne area called HCTM. Wow. I wonder if it's going to be another British train that you're getting. A bit like your intercity high-speed train knockoffs that you have over there, which really do look incredibly like HSTs. Christopher also says you never want to wear a World War II gas mask because they have asbestos in the filters. Yeah. Right, so you put the gas mask on, World War II, you put your gas mask on to protect you from the mustard gas, and then the asbestos gets you. Right. Okay. I didn't know that about the filters. I had no idea what's in the filters of a World War II gas mask. That's very interesting. I did not know that. Paul says, a completely random question, Andy. What did you do before restoration? Is your background engineering? No, not at all. It's not at all. I've done all kinds of things over time. I drove buses around for a while. I drove taxis around for a while. I worked in a hotel for a while. So yeah, I've done all sorts of things, Paul, but none of it was really in engineering. There's not a great deal of engineering goes on around here where I am, or at least there wasn't. It's coming back a bit now, but there wasn't, because it was a big mining area here, you know. And sort of when I was at school in the 70s and into the early 80s. You know, when you had a careers lesson, they used to say, right, which pit do you want to go down, basically. And just before I left school, Arthur Scoville came along. We had the miners' strike and all the pits closed. So all the stuff that I gone through school learning about mines and all this kind of malarkey and that, you know, because that's what generations of people have done in this area, it all suddenly stopped. So everybody had to reinvent themselves pretty quickly, and the area is regenerating quite nicely now and that. But it's amazing now. I found some old pictures the other day. If you take a picture just 20 or 30 years ago here, the whole place, the whole landscape is just totally unrecognisable. If you've seen any of the videos that I've done about the lost railways and that, a lot of those were mineral railways or mineral branches off bigger railways that carried the coal around, and of course they all closed in the latter half of the 20th century, basically. Dominic says, I'm studying wheel rail mechanics at the moment, and to be fair, a lot has to go wrong before the flanges come into contact with the rails. Flanges are normally a last resort, unless it's on very tight curves in sidings at low speeds. Yeah, that's the theory, Dominic. That's the theory. Because the cone shape of the wheel is supposed to kind of wedge the train in between the tracks, but I've been on trains that hunt, and they travel from side to side, and you can feel it as it's going along. You can feel it going up against that flange, then going up against that flange, and the thing's rocking sideways, you know, bouncing off the flanges at either side. And that is what used to be Virgin Voyages. I mean, I don't think they're owned by Virgin anymore, but they do that a lot. And I know a guy who actually works at the servicing depot of those at Derby, and he says they often come in with wheels that are different sizes because they somehow do wheel turning. They've got a lathe to do wheel turning, and they only do one axle at a time, so they'll have a bogie with two wheels on, and that wheel will be a couple of inches maybe bigger than that wheel, so the bogie's sat cockeyed under the train. It's ridiculous. Paul says, a friend of mine lives quite close to you. He was in the mining industry. Yeah, everybody was, Paul. Absolutely everybody was. And Christopher says they were drawing the old 1980 comic Metropolitan trains in the Melbourne area for the HCMT train to take over. Right, let's hope it works then, Christopher. Because when they withdraw the old trains, the new ones don't always work. That's been my experience. So funny thing about trains, the more advanced they get, the worse they get. Have you ever noticed? The comfort of travelling by train decreases with every new model of train that you get. you know, there is some rubbish rolling stock running on the running here in the UK. There really is. So absolutely terrible things. Virgin Voyagers, which somebody here christened Virgin Vomiters. Dominic says the Manchester Metrolink trams are notorious for hunting, as the wheel profile was optimised for the inner city section and not the higher speed sections. Right, yeah, now, yeah, well, the Metrolink tramway in Manchester, of course, took over some old rail lines. So, part of it was new on-street tramway in the street, part of it was on old rail track. I thought Manchester had replaced all the rail track so it had the same profile in relation to the wheel as the street running, but maybe they didn't. Now the problem now is here in Sheffield we've got Tramtrain, which is this very expensive government pilot scheme to see if it's possible to run trams on railway track. And they had a problem with the different wheel profiles because the tram track needs a different wheel profile to the railway track. So they said they were going to come up with a compromise wheel profile to do it. As far as I'm aware, they never managed it. And what happens with the tram trains in Sheffield is the trams that are used on the tram train service, the dedicated tram train vehicles, are very limited where they can go on the Sheffield Supertram system, particularly on the grooved street running track. And before they started operation, the track they were going over regularly was changed to make it basically match the rail profile for the railway. So the tram trains were limited where they could go on the old tramway system. Now, sometimes they do need to go on the old tramway system because they bought 5 of them. They only need 3 for the tram train service. Did they buy 5? Did they even buy 7? But they bought more than they needed anyway for the tram train service, and the idea was to augment the normal fleet. So these tram trains, came with 2 sets of wheels. One set for railway stroke tram train service use, and another set of wheels for traditional tramway use. And they have got spare sets of wheels that they interchange. They lift the whole tram up, bogies and all, lift it off the wheel sets, roll the wheel sets out and put the other wheel sets in. And they have had problems where they've had a tram train sitting in the depot, put it out into service on the tram train service, not being able to put it on the tram train service because it had got ordinary tramway wheels under it. So this compromise wheel profile that's supposed to have, that can run on tram track and can also run on railway track, as far as I'm aware, the tram trains never got that sorted in Sheffield, and they have 2 different sets of wheels, and where the tram trains go onto the tramway, they actually altered the tram track so it matches the railway track, or it's closer to the railway track. It is all a bit of a compromise. Why they couldn't use the same rails everywhere, I do not know. It's all a bit of old nonsense because, as you've quite rightly pointed out, Dominic, Metrolink took over some old railway tracks, and if they didn't relay all that railway track, they've been running on tram track and railway track for years. So why do we need tram train? Because Metrolink proved you could do it. And also, lots of the old traditional tramways used to have railway rolling stock that used to come onto the system. Normally, goods wagons full of coal going to little coal-fired power stations that generated the electricity for the tramways in the sort of late 1800s, early 1900s. Blackpool had a system like that where they used to take coal wagons onto the tramway. They had a little electric locomotive to pull them, and the locomotive is now preserved at the Tramway Museum at Crouch. So Blackpool in the early 1900s was running railway rolling stock over tramways. So this idea that it's difficult to run railway rolling stock on a tramway, I don't know why it's difficult. They've just like forgotten history, it would seem. Eve says, I didn't know Bill Gates owned a stake in railways. That's interesting. No, neither did I, but Bill Gates has probably got enough money, he probably owns a bit of everything, I would have thought. Is Bill Gates still the richest man in the world, or is Elon Musk giving him a run for his money now? Not a fan of Bill Gates. Bill Gates is responsible for Microsoft, and I hate Microsoft. Microsoft's caused me so many problems with the Windows blue screen of death and that over the years. What you probably don't know is none of this now, not this computer that's doing this live stream and that, none of this now uses any Microsoft equipment at all. It's all Linux, it's all open source and everything. We don't have anything Windows, anything Microsoft. I've not turned on a Windows PC for probably getting on for 10 years now. How about that? Christopher says, when they changed the tram overhead in 2014 from pantograph operation trams with trolley poles, trolley poles can't be used no more in Melbourne on the tramways. So they changed from trolley poles to pantographs in 2014, and you're saying the trolley poles can't be used anymore. That's possible, but there's no reason for them to have done that, because you can have overhead that will accept pantographs, trolley poles, and also bow collectors, something called a bow collector. I don't know if you have those where you are. But a bow collector is basically a thing similar to a trolley pole with a bit across the end, so it doesn't have a wheel on the end. It's just got like a sliding plate on the end of the arm, a bit like a pantograph. And you can have overhead that will work with all three. You just have to be very careful how you design the overhead. The overhead in Blackpool, which has all been rebuilt recently on the so-called upgrade of the Blackpool tramway, I say upgrade like that because they've not made it any better. In fact, they've made it worse. But that will still work with trolley poles and pantographs. The problem is, strictly a pantograph, the overhead should zigzag slightly. Because if it's in a dead straight line, the overhead, the pantograph has got normally a carbon skid on the top to lubricate it and get good contact with the wire. If the overhead is in a dead straight line, it wears a groove in the middle of the carbon skid. So what you do is you put your overhead out in a bit of a zigzag, so it moves across the carbon skid as your tram goes along or the train goes along, and it evens the wear out. Now, trolley poles don't like that, because when your tram with a trolley pole comes along, that arm, that pole with the wheel on the end, it starts wavering from side to side because of that zigzag, and it can build up the side to side movement that to the extent that it flicks the trolley pole off the wire. So the thing is, if you're going to have all kinds of current collectors, do not zigzag your wire. keep your wire in a straight line. It will then wear a groove in the middle of the pantograph skid. But what they do in Blackpool, the carbon blocks on the top of the pantograph skid are in 3 sections, left, middle and right. So they can just change, if it's worn the middle block away, they can just change the middle block and don't have to change the whole thing all the time. I used to work on the trams in Blackpool, this is how I know this. Eve says, yeah, Elon Musk is now the richest person in the world, according to our Canadian fake news. Yeah, I think he probably is. I think Elon. I think the kind of technologies that Elon Musk is into are the up and coming technologies, aren't they? Like electric cars and space travel and stuff like that. I've been watching Everyday Astronaut on YouTube. Brilliant channel, really good channel. Go watch the guy. He's fantastic, and he does live streams of the Starship launches at a place called Boca Chica Beach in Texas. And it's just fascinating to watch that. Really, really good. These big stainless steel starships that they're launching. They're testing them now. But the thing about it is, when NASA wanted to launch a rocket, it cost them billions and billions and billions of dollars. They had to build this massive infrastructure at Cape Canaveral and that, and this massive, great big tower thing to hold the rocket up with his arms, you know, and massive launch pad and that. And Elon Musk basically is launching a stainless steel tin can off a beach in Texas, and it works, and it's reusable. It comes back down and you can launch it again. So you know, you've got to admire the engineering. That keep it simple, stupid, and they have done with this Starship thing. And apart from anything else, it's a great looking thing. It's just like a Buck Rogers. If you've not seen it, it's just like a Buck Rogers rocket ship. It really is Buck Rogers from the 1930s. If you look at one of those cartoons from the 1930s with the sort of silver, sleek, pointy rocket ship with the fins on, Starship is exactly that. It's just read a 1930s comic and built it, and it works. It's amazing. Christopher says, the trams in Melbourne, trolley poles kept dewiring all the time. That's why they changed. There must have been something wrong if they were dewiring, that's all I can say. They shouldn't dewire, they do, but they shouldn't. But pantographs can be flicked off the overhead as well. It is possible. And Chris says, one of the new HCMT trains failed on a test run a week ago. There you go. Dominic says, it's a terrible shame the Blackpool Balloon trams don't run in normal service now. Yes, it is. I think the Blackpool tramway has shot itself in the foot with this upgrade. I think it was a massive mistake what they did there, because all they basically did was they upgraded it. They said, we've got to do this upgrade because we've got to make everything DDA compliant, which, if you don't know what DDA is, if you're in another part of the world, the DDA basically is a set of regulations that says people in wheelchairs have to be able to get on all forms of public transport, blah blah blah. Right. In over 100 years, the Blackpool tramway not been a problem. There've not been loads of people in wheelchairs clamouring to get on a Blackpool tram going, we want access to this tram, we can't get up the steps. They've been there 100 years. Nobody complained, right? Suddenly, they have to take away Blackpool's unique historic asset and replace it with common, horrible plastic trams that you can find anywhere, just so this non-existent person in a wheelchair can get on the bloody things. It's absolutely bonkers. It's a bit of Euro nonsense, and it's one of the reasons I voted for Brexit. Unfortunately, Brexit just wasn't quite soon enough to save the Blackpool tramway. But some of the old trams do still run. They do still run tours and things. The trouble is the atmosphere is gone, because when you're running on tours, and it's a very limited number of vehicles that are running these special tours, the atmosphere isn't there. The atmosphere in Blackpool was coming home on the last tram at sort of midnight on a Saturday night in the illuminations when it was pitch dark and pouring it down with rain. That was the atmosphere. Of course, they don't run tours at midnight in the pitch dark when it's pouring down with rain anymore, so you don't get that atmosphere anymore. I was very lucky. For one season I worked on the Blackpool trams as a guard before all this upgrade happened. So I was lucky in that I did get to experience it before it all went away, and all those brilliant things, the balloons and the twin cars and the Omos and that, I did get to experience that. But Christopher's just said on here that he's seen a pantograph fail and pull down the overhead with a big flash. Yeah. Now that happened in Blackpool as well. I remember once I went to Blackpool. I don't know if for anybody that knows Blackpool, there's a big car park at the north end of Blackpool, a place called Ginn Square. And I always used to park in the car park whenever I visited Blackpool for a day trip. I always used to park at Ginn Square. And this particular day, I arrived at Ginn Square, and there was a big commotion on the tramway. There were trams coming down from Fleetwood in the north, turning round at Ginn Square and going back again. And they weren't going into Blackpool, and I wanted to go into Blackpool. And there was a kind of inspector guy directing proceedings there. And he says, "Oh, you'll have to go across the road and get on a bus. We've had a problem." So I went across the road, got on this bus, and it took me down into Blackpool, round the Metropole Hotel, to North Pier in Blackpool. And at North Pier we got off this bus, and we found what the problem was. There was a tram at North Pier with no pantograph on it. Absolutely no pantograph, none at all. And the overhead wire was on the floor. Bear in mind, this is supposed to have about 550 volts DC going through it, this wire. So basically what had happened, this tram had pulled down the overhead wire, and the way it happens is when the tram starts to rock from side to side, if it's going at a bit of speed, the pantograph isn't terribly wide. And what happens, if that's the carbon skid on the top of the pantograph and the tram's going this way, sort of thing, that starts to rock from side to side. And if this is the wire that above, my finger's the wire, and the pantograph's rocking like that, once it rocks too much, it comes out from the wire goes down just a bit, the pantograph moves back, and it catches underneath. The tram keeps going forwards, and it pulls the wire until something's got to give. And in this case, the top of the pantograph flirted off, and the wire broke, hit the track, which made a dead short, blew the circuit breakers at the substation, everything stopped. Now, the problem that they had was they've now got a tram without a pantograph and no electric to get another tram to it to pull it away. Luckily, they have a thing called a Unimog, which is a kind of road rail diesel vehicle that they could go and hook up to this tram and drag it back to the depot. So while all this was going on, I went into a shop on the end of North Pier. There used to be on the end of North Pier, there was, I don't know if it's still there or not, but there certainly was a shop called Blackpool Memorabilia that used to sell all kinds of stuff related to the trams, books and postcards and model kits and all kinds of stuff, and anything related to Blackpool. You could buy models of the tower and stuff and that there. And I said to the people in Blackpool Memorabilia, what's gone on here? And they told me that this is what had happened with the pantograph and that. And they said, oh yeah, there's a big furore. They say it went somewhere, but don't know where it went. So eventually things started got back to normal, and it was a couple of months later I went back to Blackpool, and I went back in Blackpool Memorabilia on North Pier. I said, last time I was here, I said none of the trams were running. You know, want to pull the overhead down outside, and they said, oh yeah, remember that? They said, we've got a bit of a tale about that. I said, really? They said, yeah. They said, one of the people that maintains the pier went onto the roof of the buildings on the shoreward end of the pier to do something, and found this great big long plate thing, and they didn't know what it was. And it turned out this was the skid with the carbon inserts off the top of the pantograph of this tram. It had flipped it right across the promenade onto the roof of the buildings on the end of North Pier, and that's why they couldn't find it. But so yeah, pantographs are dewired just as much as trolley poles do, and when a pantograph does it, it's often far more spectacular as well. When a trolley pole does it, there's a good chance that you can just stop the tram, pull the pole down, hook it back onto the wire and carry on. When a pantograph does it, it's catastrophic normally. Dominic says, I wish there were modern double deck trams. It is so much more appealing than single deck trams that most of the world has. Go to Hong Kong, Dominic. They still have double deck trams. Even the traditional ones are not actually that old, but they do have some modern ones in Hong Kong as well. I think there's about 2 or 3 of them, but they've not been very successful. These modern ones, they've built 2 or 3 modern ones, been very, very unsuccessful, and they've gone back to using the old designs again, basically, because these modern ones just didn't cut it. They did. Siemens Duvag, who build trams, did in the 1970s propose a Are we back on? Sorry, we lost the stream there for just a moment, but I think we should be back on any minute now. Hopefully. Let's see if we're back on. Yeah, we're back on. Yeah, what I was saying about the Hong Kong trams, the modern ones weren't very successful, but in the 1970s, back in the 70s, or maybe it was the early 80s, I think it was the 70s though, Siemens Duvag, a great European tram manufacturer, built many thousands for various places in Europe, did propose a modern double-decker for Hong Kong that never got built. And the reason I know they proposed a modern double-decker for Hong Kong is the original maker's model from Siemens Duvag that they produced. They produced a big model about, maybe about 3 or 4 foot long, of this double-decker that they were proposing to build for Hong Kong. That model is in my loft now. Don't ask how I got it. I met an ex-manager of Hong Kong City Tramways who was clearing out his garage, and that's basically how I got it. Not in Hong Kong, I hasten to add. It was back in the UK. A chap called John Salmon was an ex-manager of Hong Kong Tramways. He also told me an interesting story about Hong Kong Tramways. He said Hong Kong trams don't have lifeguards on. He said, do you know why? I said, no. Now, for those that don't know, a lifeguard is like a gate in front of the wheels of a tram, and the idea is if anybody falls in the road, the tram runs up to them, they knock this gate backwards, and a tray drops in front of the wheels and scoops the person up so they don't get chopped up by the tram. But it does then roll you along, sort of thing, on this scoopy thing in front of the wheels underneath the tram, so you still get battered and bruised. And he said we took the lifeguards off, he said, because so many people were falling in front of our trams and getting scooped up by the lifeguards, that they were then suing us for injury. He said, so we took the lifeguards off because if the tram killed them, they couldn't sue us for injury anymore. That's what he told me. Right. Christopher says, are you going to show my CB radio with a GPO handset? Yes. Right. I'll do that before we go. Then it'll be about time to go. And he also says it's 9 AM and it's getting a ride on a loco of a goods train from Melbourne to Geelong today. Oh, that should be good. Chris, video it. Right. I'll tell you what. I'll do that next week, Christopher, because if I try and do that now, it'll probably crash out again on me. If I try and load that image while all this is going on, it'll probably crash out on me. Right, so I think that is about a wrap for today, everybody. We've done the whole gamut of things there with telephones and high-speed trains and trams, and yeah, what else is there left to talk about now? But we'll be back to do a bit more next week. Hopefully next week everything will be painted here, and we'll be getting stuff reinstalled, so we'll be able to talk about CNET next week and getting you started on CNET. So if you are one of the people who is wanting to get started on CNET, next week is the time. Remember the Repair Cafe live stream thing on Thursday night. That's on Thursday evening, starting at 7 PM UK time. If you are on Zoom, there's a Zoom meeting number if you want to join in. The Zoom meeting number is 806 999 4444. That's 806 999 4444. Okay, that's if you want to join the Zoom Repair Cafe online chat on Thursday evening. But we will be back here same time, same place next Sunday. Remember, you can catch back episodes at the website andyshed.corepress.net, and that has had an update, so some of the more recent episodes have now gone on there as well. That's andyshed.corepress.net. It's all on there for you to have a look at. Cool. Mega. Right. Right. I just had a bit of finger trouble now. I've got to press the right button. Where are we? There we are. Yeah. andyshed.corepress.net is the website. That's also where to go if you want to contact us as well. Remember, andyshed.corepress.net. And remember, if you want to support the show here and support these streams so we can do more than we do at the moment, you can find us on Patreon as well. Just give us $1 a month. www.patreon.com/AndyShed is the place to go if you'd like to support us on Patreon, or if you want to buy some phone bits or maybe some model railway bits and pieces out of our shop. The shop's here, https://andysemporium.coldpress.net. I'm getting really confused with it all now. there's rather a lot of it. It's all happening. Right. Dominic says he's going to try the Asda pizza tonight. Good choice, Dominic. Give it a go. What sort are we having? Double pepperoni? Give it a go. Christopher says it was a Melbourne modern E-class tram that had the pantograph fail. Yeah, it's always the modern ones that fail, Christopher. Always. The Melbourne W-class tram from the 1950s and Z-class from the 70s that had trolley poles, now they've got pantographs. Yeah, it's a bit boring though with pantographs, isn't it? Nothing to do, nothing for the conductor to do anymore. Right, I think that is about as far as we go today. Thanks to everybody for watching, and for all those of you who have taken part in the chat here. Thanks very much for doing that for us. We will see you around about the same time, same place next week. Let me know what you think about having the chat on screen. If you watch this back after the event on a TV, and on one of these smart TVs, is it better to have the chat there rather than just wonder what people were saying, because you can't actually see the chat replay? So yeah, so it's cool, isn't it? Yes, we'll see you next week then for more of the same from Andy's Shed. But for me, for now, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now. Hello there, and welcome to the Chesterfield Canal. This is a special video this morning because I'm just out here in the snow. As you can see, it's snowing today. Dog walking, and while I'm here dog walking, I found the canal is flooded here at Staveley. Take a look at this. You're looking towards Chesterfield there on the canal. The town of Staveley is up to the left hand side, and the towpath is here on the right as we come round this bend, and you can see here it's over. Ducks are enjoying it, and the water's going down the bank in there. I think there's a river in the bottom there, and this bit of canal is always very high. It's always quite close to the top of the stones on the towpath, but I've never seen it over like that. But it is definitely over here this morning. So yeah, that's what's happened with the canal today. It's over the top of the bank. It's over the top of the towpath in places, so we've got to now turn around and go back. Now we are heading now along the canal, me and my furry friend, towards Killamarsh, not away from Chesterfield. The next place, when we get under this bridge that's in front of us, is the relatively new Staveley Basin. and you'll see that looks pretty normal, but just the other side of that is a new section of canal that there wasn't any water in, except a bit of rainwater that had drained into it. And well, I think you might have a surprise when you see it this morning. We've just come under the bridge now, and this is Staveley Basin. Opened about maybe 10 years ago, and just up there in front of us there is where they built a temporary dam, because just the other side of that temporary dam is a lock that wasn't in water and a bridge, and then it goes down into what was a dry section of the canal. Now they lined it with clay. They put the puddling in a couple of months ago, and there was a bit of water beginning to form in the bottom of it, you know, because it couldn't go anywhere because they put the clay lining in, even though they'd not filled it. But the other week I came, I noticed the little dam there, they'd just taken a foot or maybe 2 foot of earth off the top of that dam. And at the time I looked at it, where they'd taken a bit of earth away in the middle, that was not below the water line, but of course now it is. So basically, whether it happened intentionally or accidentally, that dam is now breached. So the section below, including the lock, is now filling up with water. So let's go and have a look. I've been waiting ages to see water in this latest bit of the canals, and yeah, could well be full this morning. Let's go and have a look at it, shall we? This is the bridge over the canal at Staveley Basin. If we look this way, back towards Chesterfield, you can see the lock here, and that temporary dam just beyond it that has now been breached. And there's the lock down to the next section. And I don't know if you can hear it or not, but there is water coming through there. And if we look over this other side, it's full. The new section of the canal is full. That's under the new link road there, the sort of Staveley bypass thing, and it is full. And this section is now at the height of water that it will probably run at, because further down there on the left, just under that bridge, is an overflow, and that overflow is running this morning. So we've got part of the canal in flood and the new bit is full. Now I'm not sure whether this has happened intentionally or not, whether they took that little bit of the dam away hoping that the water level would rise a bit and fill it up, or whether it's happened totally accidentally. But whichever way, the new bit of the canal at Staveley is full. We've just come under the bridge now, going away from Staveley Basin, going towards Killamarsh. Of course the canal doesn't get that far yet. And this is the overflow, and it's running. It's absolutely roaring away. I would say there's maybe 2 inches of water going over that overflow. I don't know if you can see it or not there, going through the grids. We'll come over the other side here. And down here, it's roaring away. So not only is the canal full, there's quite a lot of excess water going down a drain down there at the minute. Down there. And if it gets too much for that drain, it then comes up again, I think, through this grid and goes down here, which they're still working on, still building a bit of wall here. And then goes off down there, the excess water. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this quick little video on the Chesterfield Canal, showing the new section here at Hartington Harbour, now totally full of water. So whether it's intentional or not, I don't know, but it's nice to see it with water in. It would be even nice to see it with some boats on it. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, give us a like and maybe even give us a subscribe to the channel for more stuff about abandoned railways and old canals and things. And leave us a comment if you know anything about the Chesterfield Canal. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.